Hi. Okay, welcome to week 30. I'm just about losing her below the horizon. But the sun, oh, if I could only get this to focus. The sun is actually close to lining up with Spica. I know I put a link in the predictions and recommendations page, on that page. I know I put a link to a video about a star called Spica. I need to go back and watch that. I've been back over this way with Parima, getting a lot of work done on her. But it's just, isn't that beautiful? And we're still so much in Virgo. Libra over here waiting. We're getting there. But I do feel like there is not actually an overlap for Libra season with Libra constellation. I have to revise the idea that the middle section of the month has that overlap of 5 to 6 days. I think what we're going to be facing instead, it's really fascinating to think of, turn the volume down here, how much Virgo, there's such a huge overlap for Virgo that so many Virgos actually are pure Virgos. They do not have Leo. Like, yes, there are the Virgos with Leo suns, sun placements, but this is probably unique, absolutely unique to Virgo. Everybody else stands a much stronger chance of being a mix of sun sign with season sign. So I think there's possibly even a gap between the Libra tropical season and the Libra sidereal season. So it'll be very interesting to see when to kick into that negotiating energy. There's not a there's almost like a, yeah, we're gonna see, because I'm trying to calculate when to get into my negotiating phase, and I know that they've told me to release. I know the reading that I did last week with the that came out with the Ace of Wands and the Moon, obviously meant once we're on, once we reach the full moon in Aries, yes, release, publish. So I know I've got to jump on the 20th. The 21st, my son returns from his 3-week trip out to Prince Edward Island on the 21st, so I feel like 20th is go time. So I'm cramming, and I'm doing that like a Virgo time sensitive thing. So this period that we go through in the Virgo season of being extremely time sensitive, and that push that everybody's feeling right now, it's because we're in pure Virgo energy. There is no overlap. So I just think that's completely fascinating. So this week is dealing with the constellation and the sign of Virgo. So I will get right into that in just a second. I forgot to bring my chair over, my bar stool. Hang on. Okay, so we know the sun is still very much there. Oh, I've got a crystal hanging out where I wouldn't normally have a crystal. Okay, so I don't think there's very much to report on the calendar of it per se. No, so we have that full moon in Aries. And that's where we need to release whatever it is that was in the reading that we need to do. That strength, that 5 of Pentacles, squaring off with the 2 of Cups in reverse, those opportunities, yes. So the Virgo energy with the Cancer energy. Oh, got a candle out already. Well, we'll fix that in a minute. You can't even see it on camera anyway. All right. So I actually got ahead of the game this week, sort of, almost, since this is Friday. But I got all my work done, you see? And I got it all printed up. Good on me. Thank you. Cheers from a car alarm. All right. So what is so exciting about Virgo that I did not know is a supercluster. The supercluster of galaxies. There's like there's like so many galaxies right outside ours that we can see, and they're spread all over, yes, but there is, let me see if I can show it to you this way. If you go into the app, it shows you all these, see all those little white ovals? That's how many. That's how many. And within those are just like generalizations, yes? You can find even more within that. So I looked into that. Let me see if I can. I ended up on astronomy.com. And the article is titled The Virgo Supercluster, Our 100,000 Closest Galaxies. Small groups combine with larger clusters to form a vast network of interconnected galaxies that spans 110 million light years. Okay, and that is somewhere in here, this part, yeah? So I'll just read it out. Because Virgo has so many galaxies at approximately the same distance from Earth, astronomers use the cluster as a lab to study galaxy evolution. Just as an alien visitor would learn more about human development by looking at a stadium full of different people than at a single family, so too can astronomers learn more about galaxies from a huge batch, like the one in Virgo. And you can, in the app, you can click on all of those ovals and get information about them. So the Virgo cluster, the most significant collection of galaxies, this is all from that astronomy article, with the home address local supercluster, has a center some 55 million light years away. As its name suggests, you can find it in the direction of the constellation Virgo. Compared to the meager dozens of galaxies in the previous groups and clusters, Virgo has 1,300 and maybe even 2,000 constituents. They add up to 1.2 quadrillion solar masses spread across 7.2 million light years. The Virgo cluster is so big that it actually has subclumps: Virgo A, Virgo B, and Virgo C. Virgo A dominates, encompassing 10 times as much mass as the other two. The three eventually will merge into a single giant cluster. Because these subgroups have yet to coalesce, astronomers suspect Virgo is young and still figuring out its identity. So, and then if we take a tour, we've got over here New Virginis, or 3 Virginis. It's a long period variable, and it's 293 light years away. 293 to 294 light years away. Then we have Eta Virginis. I should have done this with the others. Did I do it with the others? I don't know. Xenia, triple star, 265 light years, or also known as Eta Virginis. Oh no, it has, because it's a triple star. There's Eta Virginis AA. Xenia is the AA. So when they call it Xenia, that's referring to one of the 3 stars. There's AB, and then there's Eta Virginis B. Here we come to Parima. Here we have the story, also known as Arich. We need to know the pronunciation of that. Gamma Virginis, second brightest in Virgo. Now, Parima is the one that's named, and I'm getting this information from Jim Kaler, and I decided he finally needs to get his face in on this. So there's Jim Kaler that supplies so much information that's used in Sky Safari, I believe. I think Stellarium gets most of its information from Wikipedia quotes. Parima, again, named for Postverta, one of the 3, I've got it on the next page, but prophetic, right? We have 2 stars, Vindematrix, also known as Epsilon Virginis, Ova or Awa, Delta Virginis. This one has a lot of names actually. Delta Virginis, Epsilon Vindematrix has a lot of names. Delta Virginis belongs to a small group of stars called the Awa. It's dying. Now there are 2 at least. Did I keep track of it? didn't quite draw this correctly because this should actually form a right triangle. These should all be 90 degrees. They should all be equal, and that didn't happen. So I gotta fix that if I'm gonna hold my head up at all. 109 Virginis. Now there are multiple ways of drawing the constellation, of which stars, which dots to connect. There's Kappa Virginis over here. There is Surma. And then we have Spica. Right. Precession of the equinoxes, and it's also the nakshatra Chitra. So we need to look into that because we'll get a lot of identity, what do I want to say, characteristics from that, understanding the nakshatra. Hipparchus, precession, the precession of the equinoxes, why I stick with sidereal placements as opposed to tropical placements. Because he discovered it thanks to Spica. He kept an eye on Spica. There was a temple to Manat, Hathor in Thebes, Luxor. I've been there. They sent me to that in 2010 with my son when he was 10. And so Spica is the star that got us to understanding the shift. Thank you, Hipparchus, and thank you. Well, I'm sure he's not the only. I'm sure Indian astrologers and astronomers, the same difference. Always notice these things, whether or not they keep track. Well, they're keeping track of the fixed stars. They're keeping track of the nakshatras. So there we have it for those. Now I know 2 of the stars in here, and I seem to have lost track of making note of which ones. 2 are the grape pressers, known as, basically to do with wine. I have a feeling like it's Spica, and I want to say Vindimiatrix, but I could be wrong. I'm going to look into that again. Why I didn't note it down. I must have just lost track of myself. So this is further to why I choose which story to go with. There are lots of goddesses in the Western tradition. We didn't even get into any other tradition. I felt called to follow one in particular that I didn't even know I was looking for. But I did look up several, and I've kept note of them. But I didn't bring them into it because you're going to find out if you're looking into it yourself anyway. You're going to find it how many. What I chose to go with was something that caught me psychically. Where can I find? It's taking me to Erigone. Phanothea was her mother, and Icarus was her father. Icarus brought wine at the behest of Dionysus. Let's see, we have a festival, Aora, that is attached to these 3, but we have a story of Boots, the constellation Boots above Virgo, Canis Major, the dog, yes, and Virgo. I'm just trying to figure out where the hell I put the story, and it's possible I left it out because I've got Postvorta here as Parima, the story of her, and I was speaking of the Kamine. This all of them take us back to the Delphi oracles, which takes us back to Mami Wata. Now, here is a screenshot from, where am I trying to find it? The Lost and Hidden History of the African Civil Prophetess on this channel. That is Mama Zogbe's channel, Mami Wata. And what it says here, Eriphile, the Sibyl, So that would be an African prophetess, foretold that the Greek poet Homer would someday write a number of books of fiction. On her deathbed, she admonished him in advance, predicting that he would build his literary career by plagiarizing her prophetic words and by copying her poetic style, claiming it as his own. Ariphal's prediction came true when Homer published his famous poem, The Odyssey, hailed as the first great work of Western literature. Homer is alleged to also have plagiarized her prophecies to write the Iliad. So worshipped was the Sibyl of Cumaea, Rome, that she was immortalized in one of her appellations as Europa, for which Europe is allegedly named. Okay, further to that, then I get into what I found from Millennius. If you go to Constellation of Words website and you look up Virgo. I did not go to Constellation of Words first. I looked up Virgo and it took me to Constellation of Words. The temperaments of those whose span of life she pronounces at their birth Erigone will direct to study, and she will train their minds in the learned arts. She will give not so much abundance of wealth as the impulse to investigate the causes and effects of things. On them she will confer a tongue which charms, the mastery of words, and that mental vision which can discern all things, however concealed they be by the mysterious workings of nature. From the Virgin will also come the stenographer, scriptor crit velox. His letter represents a word, and by means of his symbols he can keep ahead of utterance and record in novel notation the long speech of a rapid speaker. But with the good there comes a flaw. Bashfulness handicaps the early years of such persons. For the maid, by holding back their great natural gifts, puts some. Did I just screw up what I cropped, and restrains them by the curb of authority? Great. Oh well, it's printed now. I have it in the screenshot, but anyway, sorry. And small wonder in a virgin, her offspring is not fruitful. Well, I had one kid. But that's from Manilius, 1st century A.D. Manilius says, from the Virgin will also come the stenographer. Like the speed writer, the shorthand writer. For me, it means the psychic co-writer. That's what it means to me. So, Erigone, again, he's speaking of Erigone. He's speaking, and he is, now, Manilius is, his Astronomica is credited, wrongly, I'm sure, with being the first written, it can't be. It absolutely cannot be. And I just have to go back and figure out the right answer to this. But in terms of what the West recognizes as an astrological treatise, anything written down for the Western world for astrology, astronomy, they credit him with that. But that's in the 1st century of the Common Era, so that's bullshit. But that he should write something like that, and he's speaking of Virgo, yes, as Erigone. That is amazing. And 19th century classicist Frederikus Jacobs and the 19th and 20th century historian Paul Monceau have argued that, what did I say, Manilius, yes, sorry Manilius, I've been talking to you a lot lately, have argued he was an African, based largely on his writing style, which they say resembles that of African authors. Vogt counters this view, arguing that Manilius writes from a conventional Roman perspective and takes recourse to Roman history to illustrate the astrological facts he discusses. Well, what we know from the Etruscans and from most of the Mediterranean, they were African. So that's all reconciled then, if we get to the truth. So there's this festival, Aora, accompanied with sacrifices and banquets, whence it's sometimes called, however we want to pronounce that. The common account of its origin is as follows. Icarus Icarius was kind by the shepherds to whom he'd given wine, and who, being unacquainted with the effects of this beverage, fancied in their intoxication that he'd given them poison. Erigone, his daughter, guided by a faithful dog, like Dorothy, discovered the corpse of her father, whom she had sought a long time in vain, and praying to the gods that all Athenian maidens might perish in the same manner. I don't know why, but, you know, Greeks with describing their women folk, they often get it wrong. Hung herself. After this occurrence, hanged herself would be the right way of saying it, but after this occurrence, many Athenian women actually hanged themselves, apparently without any motive whatever. And when the oracle was consulted respecting it, the answer was that Icarius and Erigone, if we want to say it, I don't know, I gotta look into it, must be propitiated by a festival, as quoted. According to the Etymologicum Magnum, the festival was celebrated in honor of Erigone, daughter of Aegisthus, and Clytemnestra, who came to Athens to bring the charge of matricide against Orestes before Areopagus, and when he was acquitted, hanged herself with the same wish as the daughter of Icarius, and with the same consequences. So there's two separate stories. According to Hesychius, the festival was celebrated in commemoration of the tyrant Timelaeus, but no reason is assigned. Calls the maiden who hanged herself Aora. But as the festival is also called that, apparently from the wanderings of Erigone, the daughter of Icarius, the legend which was first mentioned seems to be the most entitled to belief. Pollux, somebody, mentions a song made by Theodorus of Colophon, which persons used to sing while swinging themselves. It's therefore probable that the Athenian maidens, in remembrance of Erigone and the other Athenian women who had hanged themselves, swung themselves during this festival, at the same time singing the above-mentioned song of Theodorus. Because swings and swinging, shall we say, literally, well, I guess sexual swinging is literal as well, is part of the festival. But again, her mother being Phanothea, she was said to have invented the hexameter. The hexameter is a form of verse. Porphyrius designates her as the Delphic priestess of Apollo. Brings us right back, doesn't it, to Eriphyle. Phanothea and Eriphyle, because if we look to the poems in Homer's work, we come back to the hexameter. Maybe not always, but often enough. So, that to me seems, now I haven't printed it in this because I couldn't fit everything on here, so I put on here what mattered the most. And I'm going to turn the fridge off, hang on. But the idea was that in honor of the tragedy that befell her and her father, and then her dog having found. So I mean, this is a star story. Yes, it is a star story of Boots, Virgo, and what did I say? Oh my God, Canis Major. The fact that there's two stars in Virgo that have to do with winemaking and one star that has to do with prophecy. Yes, of course, we've got Demeter and we've got Persephone and we have at least two other goddesses. Themis completely connects to Phanothea. So we have overlapping, yes. But I feel like, for me, because especially what Menelaus said that really strikes to the core of me in terms of explaining my life, apart from the fact I just found out that I'm a 33, my birthday adds up to 33. I got that from Roshan Sylvia, listening to her. Suddenly it mattered to listen to somebody explain master number 33 as a number, as a life number. I thought I was a 6. I am a 6, but she's like, no, but if it adds up to 33, if you can go with the 33, she's like, and here's how your life takes shape. I'm like, okay. So this, what Menelaus says about Virgo and my North Node's in Virgo, so that's why I'm completely tied to going with that, because it totally explains all the psychic co-writing to me that I otherwise feel completely bound to in an irrational way but a real way for years now, more than 20 years, and it explains my childhood. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's a very nice, tidy wrap up. And I even remembered to refocus the camera. But I spent half a day. I got it all done in the one day. So Virgo's work is very tidy and tight for me on this. I am completely drowning with work, but I have been for a long time. So it's mostly the go time. It's the release time and making a bunch of decisions about and clearing out feelings. So working very much, not without emotional content, but not allowing too much time for it, as I have done in the past. So yeah, it's almost, I feel almost like I'm being unfair to Virgo by how efficient this is going. And yet and it's so interesting to have such a short, like we only have 4 weeks in it, but it's been going on. It affected our Aquarius house work. So I've already printed up next week's work, week 31, getting into my chart. I haven't done any of it yet because I'm going to get back to finishing my book, my drawing book. And then guides or who's helping you in this house or what the concerns are for this house. And what, I won't get ahead of myself. I won't tackle that yet because that's 2 weeks from now. But really, we're in such, I mean, it's just absolutely pure Virgo energy, and that's not going to happen. And the fact that this book they lined this book up so that we would hit Virgo at the same time as we're in Virgo. This is not accidental, and it's a fucking miracle, and I'm extremely in awe and grateful. And as much as I'm stressing and doubting any success that I'm going to possibly have by trusting them, they already see that coming, so there's nothing to do but press in and carry on. But yeah, the fact that Virgo is absolutely time, space, place sensitive. It was not a mistake to put the Virgo in a lighthouse. There is a time and a place, and it comes and it goes. And when it's gone, it's gone. I feel like with all those galaxies, inside Virgo, and the fact that Libra becomes so narrow, I wonder, and Libra was the path to heaven, so path to God, and I wonder if our path is so narrow to get to these, like all the knowledge coming through, is this where our guides are? Somewhere in there, yeah? And there's such a narrow gap for Libra. And it's going to be completely inside. It's going to be completely inside Scorpio energy, isn't it? Scorpio overlap, because we're completely bypassing. Is that what I want to say? Let me just see here. Let me get this back. Because we're not going to hit. We're not going to hit Libra till, yeah, it's going to be completely inside. It's going to be so narrow. It's going to be like that. It's going to be, we got to figure out this. See, I've got to completely redo this tropical chart. No, I've got to do, what am I saying? Wheels. I've got to redo both of them. Duh. Yes. Well, no, actually, I don't know that I'm going to redo the tropical. That's set, I think. But I'm going to absolutely have to redo the sidereal. So that, because of, yes. We're very much still, we're going to be in Virgo almost, I wouldn't be surprised right up until the end of October. And does that mean technically, how long in November are we actually in Libra energy? Fascinating. Okay, so that's it for week 30. And, wow, that's it. Jeez. But that's how Virgo wants it anyway. Completely on point. Yeah, okay. I'll be back. I'm going to do a group reading now, collective reading. And I'll be back in probably less than a week with the birth chart placements. Okay, and tarot. Much love.